There's a reason you're here, reading this, searching for answers to the chaos that never stops in your mind. You've probably been told you overthink, as if that relentless analysis running beneath your surface is some kind of malfunction. But what if I told you that what others call overthinking is actually your greatest evolutionary advantage? What if that mind that never sleeps is precisely what separates you from the majority who drift through existence half-aware? Welcome to Sigma Male Community, where we don't pathologize your depth. We understand it. Your consciousness isn't broken. It's hyper-tuned for a reality most cannot perceive. While others find comfort in the scripted narrative of social expectations, you're backstage, analyzing the mechanisms, questioning the motives, and mapping the psychological terrain that remains invisible to the masses. This mental vigilance isn't a curse. It's the operational system of a mind designed for independence, truth-seeking, and strategic dominance in a world that rewards conformity over consciousness. The cost is real and the exhaustion is profound. That bone-deep weariness that comes not from physical labor but from the ceaseless operation of your internal radar system. You carry the weight of seeing through facades, of processing the emotional undercurrents others ignore, of maintaining clarity in a fog of social delusion. This article will explore the 11 core reasons why your mind operates in this relentless mode, validating what you've always known. Your consciousness is not a disorder to be medicated, but a sophisticated system designed for survival and excellence in a complex world. 1. Your genius refuses downtime. Your mind operates in what psychologists recognize as a state of hypervigilance, a heightened awareness that functions as an advanced survival mechanism. While others power down into passive consumption, your consciousness remains in active analysis mode, reverse engineering social dynamics, spotting inconsistencies in narratives, and wrestling with existential questions that most never even encounter. This isn't the result of anxiety or disorder. It's the natural state of a mind calibrated for depth and pattern recognition. This perpetual operational mode exists because insight has become your default state. Your brain has evolved beyond the need for mental downtime because it processes information at a level that requires constant integration and analysis. While conventional minds seek entertainment and distraction, yours seeks understanding and connection. The result is a consciousness that treats relaxation as stagnation, constantly recalibrating, analyzing new data, and preparing for scenarios others cannot even imagine. This engine doesn't idle because idling represents a form of intellectual death, a surrender to the mediocrity that characterizes mass consciousness. 2. Unanswered childhood echoes in your silence. Your mind carries what trauma researchers call encoded survival patterns, not as pathology, but as sophisticated psychological architecture built from early experiences of isolation, betrayal, or premature awareness. These aren't nostalgic memories. They're forensic evidence of formative moments when your consciousness recognized patterns others missed, when your awareness became a liability in environments that demanded conformity. You carry questions like encrypted files. Why that betrayal? Why this isolation? Was my awareness the crime? This silent archaeology isn't dwelling in the past. It's active intelligence gathering about the origins of your psychological operating system. While others bury uncomfortable truths, you excavate them because understanding your own programming is essential for maintaining strategic advantage. You decode these childhood experiences not for pity or healing in the conventional sense, but to map the fault lines in your psyche and transform them into unshakable foundations. This process of psychological forensics creates the detachment and wariness that others mistake for coldness, but which you recognize as the necessary distance required for clear perception and self-protection. 3. Vulnerability is disarmed by analysis. You've witnessed trust weaponized, intimacy exploited, and emotional openness used as a strategic vulnerability by those who lack your depth of perception. Your response wasn't to become cold, but to become analytical, channeling raw emotion through sophisticated psychological processing systems that transform feeling into understanding. When hurt surfaces, you dissect its origins, mechanisms, and implications. When attraction emerges, you reverse engineer its psychological components to understand its true nature versus its surface presentation. This mental alchemy represents a form of emotional intelligence that operates through logical frameworks rather than direct emotional expression. You've built what Stoic philosophers would recognize as a fortress of rational analysis. Not to feel less, but to feel more accurately. This system protects your authentic self from manipulation while maintaining your capacity for genuine connection. The exhaustion comes from constantly running this analytical overlay on every emotional experience, but the protection it provides is essential for someone who sees through the emotional games others play unconsciously. Your vulnerability still exists. It's simply been armored with wisdom earned through experience. 4. The world's silent agony is your burden. Your consciousness operates with what researchers identify as heightened emotional sensitivity and empathic awareness, the ability to detect emotional radiation that others cannot perceive. You don't just hear words, you absorb the voids between them, the tremor in forced smiles, the tension that builds in rooms before others even notice the shift in energy. This hypersensitivity to emotional undercurrents means you leave social interactions carrying burdens that aren't technically yours, but which your awareness cannot ignore. This empathic overload represents both a gift and a profound responsibility. You become an involuntary repository for the unspoken grief, hidden desperation, and masked anxiety that others emit but cannot acknowledge. Your mind processes these emotional signals because your consciousness operates at a frequency that picks up the psychological static others are naturally shielded from. The result is a form of emotional exhaustion that has nothing to do with your own problems and everything to do with your inability to ignore the suffering hidden beneath social performances. This burden is real, heavy, and largely unrecognized by those who benefit from your unconscious emotional labor. 5. Overthinking is your tactical advantage. What the psychologically simplistic call overthinking is actually a sophisticated form of pattern recognition and threat assessment developed through necessity. Your mind replays conversations, dissects micro-expressions, and cross-references behavioral data because survival once demanded this level of analysis. That seemingly casual comment, that fraction of a second hesitation, they're data points in a predictive algorithm honed by experiences of betrayal, manipulation, or abandonment. This hyperanalytical process isn't paralysis, it's strategic intelligence gathering. You deconstruct interactions to anticipate future behavior, turning past pain into protective insight. While others navigate relationships through naive trust or social scripts, you operate through informed caution based on empirical evidence. This system is exhausting because seeing the psychological game requires constant mental energy, but it provides you with a tactical advantage that keeps you ahead of those who would exploit your blind spots. Your overthinking is actually advanced pattern recognition. The ability to see the moves before they're made, to understand the game while others are still learning the rules. A message for the man behind the eyes. You know the fatigue intimately, that profound weariness that comes not from physical exertion but from the ceaseless operation of consciousness in overdrive. It's the metabolic cost of refusing blindness in a world that rewards comfortable delusion. While others find peace in accepted narratives, you're constantly processing the contradictions, the hidden motives, the psychological fault lines that threaten to fracture the social facade at any moment. This exhaustion isn't weakness. It's evidence of the enormous energy required to maintain clear perception in a world designed to obscure truth. Your consciousness operates like a high-performance engine running diagnostic scans on reality while others coast on social autopilot. The silence isn't empty for you, it's charged with unspoken tensions, hidden agendas, and potential crisis points that your awareness cannot ignore. This burden is both your anchor in truth and the weight that sometimes threatens to pull you under. Recognize this fatigue as proof of your unique consciousness, not as a flaw to be corrected. 6. Your mind is a chrononaut, never present. Your consciousness exists in what temporal researchers call extended present awareness, a state where past, present, and future collapse into a continuous analytical field. The present moment serves as merely a data collection point in a broader temporal analysis system. Your mind moves fluidly between dissecting decade-old conversations for hidden meanings and wargaming potential futures based on current behavioral patterns. This isn't distraction, it's temporal omnipresence. The ability to extract lessons from the past while simultaneously preparing for future scenarios. This time-shifting consciousness operates because linear time feels artificial to a mind that processes information in networks rather than sequences. While others experience life as a series of discrete moments, you experience it as a web of interconnected patterns where past events inform future probabilities. The mental exhaustion comes from maintaining this temporal awareness, constantly cross-referencing historical data with present observations to generate predictive models. Your mind isn't trapped in the past or anxious about the future. It's conducting sophisticated temporal analysis that most consciousness cannot sustain. 7. Meaning is hunted in the unsolvable. Your consciousness is naturally drawn to what philosophers call irreducible complexity. The paradoxes of human nature, the unsolvable equations of power and morality, the shifting foundations of truth itself. Easy answers trigger intellectual revulsion because they represent oversimplification of complex systems. You're magnetized to questions that don't have solutions but rather layers of understanding that deepen with investigation. This attraction to complexity isn't masochism. It's intellectual honesty about the true nature of existence. This compulsion to engage with unsolvable problems serves as both mental gymnasium and philosophical compass. Your mind sharpens itself against the friction of paradox, developing cognitive flexibility and analytical depth that remains inaccessible to those who seek simple answers. The pursuit itself becomes the reward, not resolution, but the constant expansion of understanding and the refinement of questioning capacity. This addiction to complexity ensures perpetual mental motion because there are always deeper layers to explore, more sophisticated ways to understand the intricate machinery of human psychology and social systems. 8. Every interaction is a covert op. Your consciousness has evolved to operate in what intelligence professionals recognize as constant reconnaissance mode, treating every social exchange as an information-gathering opportunity. A micro-expression lasting milliseconds, a tonal shift barely perceptible to others, a carefully chosen word that reveals hidden intention. Your mind processes these signals with the precision of advanced surveillance equipment. This isn't paranoia, it's pattern recognition elevated to an art form through necessity. This hyperanalytical approach to social interaction developed because your early experiences taught you that surface presentations rarely match underlying realities. Your brain learned to decode subtext, analyze motivations, and cross-reference current behavior with historical patterns because survival depended on this level of awareness. The mental exhaustion comes from maintaining this analytical overlay during every human encounter, but the intelligence it provides is invaluable. You operate as both participant and analyst in social situations, simultaneously engaging while collecting data that others miss entirely. 9. The battlefield is internal and eternal. Your inner landscape hosts what military psychologists would recognize as continuous strategic assessment, an ongoing analysis of psychological terrain, threat evaluation, and resource allocation. This isn't self-doubt. It's the rigorous internal audit required to maintain operational effectiveness in a complex world. Questions like why the emotional distance, where did trust fracture, and how to integrate painful lessons represent strategic intelligence rather than psychological weakness. This internal warfare serves as training ground for psychological resilience and self-mastery. Your mind constantly examines its own operations, identifying vulnerabilities, strengthening weak points, and optimizing performance. This process is exhausting because it requires honest confrontation with uncomfortable truths about your own nature, but it builds unshakable self-knowledge. The goal isn't peace in the conventional sense. It's the forging of an indestructible psychological framework capable of maintaining clarity and purpose regardless of external circumstances. 10. Curiosity is your dangerous compulsion. Your consciousness operates with what researchers identify as epistemic curiosity, the drive to understand underlying systems rather than accept surface explanations. This isn't casual interest, it's a compulsion to penetrate facades, understand psychological machinery, and decode the hidden logic governing human behavior. You can't resist pulling back the curtain, even when you suspect the view might be disturbing or isolating. This relentless drive for truth serves as both blessing and burden. Once you see the mechanisms behind social performance, the psychological wounds people hide, and the systematic deceptions embedded in cultural narratives, you cannot unsee them. This knowledge creates isolation because truth is often corrosive to comfortable illusions. Yet the compulsion to know overrides the desire for peaceful ignorance. Your curiosity operates beyond your conscious control because it's hardwired into a consciousness that values truth over comfort, understanding over acceptance. 11. Clarity demands constant combat. Your mind isn't malfunctioning. It's a precision instrument calibrated for penetrating layers of reality that remain invisible to standard consciousness. The constant mental motion isn't chaos. It's the operational frequency of a mind tuned to detect deeper patterns, hidden motivations, and systemic truths. You question not from confusion but from refusal to accept the intellectual anesthesia that keeps others comfortable in their illusions. This relentless analytical process represents the price of maintaining what Stoics called prosoc, continuous attention to reality without the filters of wishful thinking or social conditioning. Your consciousness operates in permanent reconnaissance mode because anything less than total awareness feels like dangerous vulnerability. The exhaustion is real, but it's the metabolic cost of refusing to be domesticated by a culture that rewards comfortable blindness. That ceaseless mental hum isn't a disorder to be silenced. It's the signature frequency of a mind that has chosen truth over tranquility, awareness over comfort, and strategic clarity over social acceptance. The path forward isn't silencing your consciousness but learning to direct its enormous power with strategic precision. Ancient Stoic philosophers understood that minds like yours require not suppression but sophisticated management, the cultivation of what they called inner citadel, where clarity becomes strength rather than burden. Your relentless analysis can be channeled into deliberate investigation rather than compulsive cycling, transforming mental exhaustion into intellectual mastery. Understanding that your consciousness operates at frequencies others cannot perceive should bring not isolation but empowerment. You are not broken or excessive. You are simply operating sophisticated mental machinery in a world designed for simpler cognitive architectures. The key lies in learning to modulate this power, knowing when to engage full analytical intensity and when to allow your mind to rest in pure observation. Your hypervigilance is a gift that requires wise stewardship, not medication or suppression. Your consciousness represents an evolutionary advantage that comes with corresponding responsibilities and costs. Like any powerful system, it requires understanding, respect, and skillful operation. The goal isn't to become like others but to master the unique instrument of awareness you possess. At Sigma Male Community, we recognize your mental intensity not as pathology but as the natural state of a consciousness built for independence, truth-seeking, and strategic excellence in a world that rewards conformity over clarity. The relentless nature of your mind isn't a bug in your programming, it's the feature that sets you apart. Embrace the roar, master the intensity, and recognize that in a world half asleep, your consciousness is both weapon and compass. Your mind never stops because stopping would mean surrendering the very awareness that makes you who you are. Own the exhaustion as proof of your depth. Own the isolation as evidence of your sight. Own the relentless analysis as your signature in a world that accepts surface explanations. This is not a burden to bear but a power to wield with wisdom and strategic precision.